Hi guys, Megan here, the faithful fibromyalgia warrior, also known as Healing Foods Coach, also known as just Megan. This is just a shorter video for this evening. It's just after 9 o'clock here. It's actually just after 9:30 here in Gravenhurst. Um, just wanted to share a little bit or talk a little bit about being reminded of how far I've actually come in my healing journey. And I let me just say, I understand I've had significant healing since I started carnivore in June of 2020. Without a doubt. I've lost 100 pounds. I've reversed my fibromyalgia. I no longer need a wheelchair after almost 9 years of having to have one to get around. I'm no longer on any pain medication. I've healed my IBS. I have healed my crippling anxiety, my depression, and I am in a place of healing with my bulimia, which is all absolutely fantastic, incredible, for certain, without a doubt. And not to say that that would never, not to say that I could never have done that without God and the carnivore diet these last 4 years. Absolutely. But sometimes, in spite of knowing how I've come such a far long way, I might be like you guys. And there's moments where I feel kind of lazy, or maybe I don't feel very motivated. I don't want to work out. I don't want to go for a walk. I don't want to do much. And not that we don't get to have downtime when we're on holiday and all that kind of thing, but um, that's how I feel. And I feel like, but I'm not walking 10 miles every day. And I'm not training for a half marathon yet. I mean, what about doing a charity walk for, you know, a good community, for a good cause? Why I'm not doing those things, so maybe I'm not as healed as I should be. That's just where my brain likes to go sometimes. However, I was digging through some old um, photos from my Facebook page, and there are photos. I looked back. I mean, I found some photos from as far back as 2015, so a year after my back injury, um, before my fibromyalgia was finally diagnosed, but a year back from my back injury. And I have pictures where even then I could not get around my house without crutches. And there's pictures of me with crutches. And I was not yet at my heaviest, but I had certainly put on weight. You could see there was puffiness in my face. Certainly my hypothyroidism was um, there, although I didn't get diagnosed with it for 4 more years, but it was, my thyroid definitely wasn't functioning properly. I was putting on weight. I was bloated constantly. My face was puffy. You could see all of that even back in 2015. I found a photo of myself from 2017. We'd gone out to a Mexican restaurant for lunch one day, and there's a picture of me. I used to have to wear braces on both my wrists because my osteoarthritis was so incredibly painful. And you could just see, again, very puffy face. And even just 2 years from the last photo, you could see I'd put on additional weight. And it was right around the time my father passed away. So there was a lot of stress eating as well. And then I have all these photos that I pulled from Facebook where um, even in 2018, I was already carrying maybe 40 or 50 extra pounds of weight, fighting to get a doctor to acknowledge that something was wrong with my thyroid. And at the time, they wouldn't listen to me. And I didn't have my electric, actually, no, I did. I had my electric wheelchair now, because before that, it was just a manual chair. And someone had to push me if I wanted to go into town and go shopping or go for coffee. I could only do that if somebody had the time, if they were around and they wanted to push me into town manually, because I could not self-propel. It hurt too much. And by 2018, I was sick and tired of not being able to get out of the house, having to rely on somebody else to push me when my sons were both at school full time, my husband worked full time. It just wasn't an option. And so by 2020, I mean, let me clarify, when we would go on holidays, of course, the manual chair would come with us. So going from a back injury, needing crutches, where crutches outside of the house it's a small house, so a wheelchair wasn't used in the house, but I had to have crutches to get around the house. And from there, I had to start using a wheelchair because I was in so much pain. First, for people to push me, and then eventually I got one that was electric. And that I needed that chair, whether it was a manual one, like going on holidays, going going out, excuse me, when we had to, if we went to, for the longest time, the manual chair was the only one that we could take if we were going to concerts or gigs or performances, because the electric wheelchair is not easily broken down. It's got one of those giant leather captain seats on it. And so it wasn't something you could easily pull apart and stick in the back of your car. But just going to some really great musical concerts over the last several years, but having to sit in a wheelchair and having to wait for a natural break in the program for my husband to push me to the accessible toilet, and being able to barely stand up and go up like maybe one or two steps just to get to a level platform. I couldn't do any of that for almost 9 years. And seeing pictures of myself, like you'll see in my, up there, there it is, I'm trying to point it. So on the left, the only reason you don't see a crutch in the photo is because I had put it down for the 2 seconds it took me to take the selfie picture. Okay. But at that point, that was in May of 2020. It may not look like it because I was really good with adjusting the picture, resizing it, using lighting and angles to my advantage. But I was 225 pounds in that photo. Severely bloated, puffy, filled with inflammation, chronic pain, all of it. That was where it got to be the worst. But it didn't just start in 2020. 2020 is when my thyroid finally gave up, when my liver was filled with fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because of the super high amounts of triglycerides because of all the fruit and starchy carbs I've been eating. My IBS was completely out of control. My guts were just complete agony. I was wearing either special compression. I had to wear compression gloves all the time, generally, even in the summertime for the most part, because of how painful my wrists were and my joints and my hands were, from between the arthritis as well as just the inflammation in my body. And I couldn't get up, and I could not walk more than a few feet from, say, my bedroom to the toilet, or maybe the toilet to the sofa in the living room. And when I stopped and looked at these photos of my story of pain and illness and inflammation to eventually healing, one thing stood out to me clearly, that as I looked at photos, especially between 2015 and 2020, I just kept getting sicker and more filled with pain and inflammation, and I just kept feeling worse and getting worse. I was getting worse and worse and feeling worse and worse um, during that time period. Like I say, I had to use crutches around the house. I was always in a wheelchair if we were going anywhere, whether it was the electric one or someone had to manually push me, like if we were at an event or a gig or like as in a concert or traveling through airport terminals and things like that. That was the only way that I could travel any distance was in the chair. I could not walk. There was too much pain in my knees and my hips and my groin and my pelvic area, my lower back, everywhere in my body was just ravaged with chronic pain and inflammation. And I'm just so thankful that in 2020, finally, I was able to start reversing those things. Not everything was reversed immediately, as you guys will know if you've seen any of my videos or heard any of my story. It took time. However, within the first month or so, I lost about 20 pounds, which already started to take some of the pressure off my poor back and knee joints. But beyond that, I was starting to lose the brain fog. That's how quickly eliminating everything plant-based out of my diet affected me. That's how fast it worked for me, which showed me that I absolutely had to keep those things out. Now, as I've said in a previous video, I have no issue with someone who's low carb or keto. They're excellent, excellent protocols, and they work for a great number of people, and they are fantastic. And if you're only starting to look at your nutrition or health and you're not quite sure where to begin, or you feel like maybe carnivore is going to be too much for you too soon, start with low carb or even possibly go to keto and see how you feel, right? For me, I had so many underlying health conditions at the same time. I had to start eliminating stuff. I had to, because I knew that they were affecting my body. And especially given my IBS, so I knew all the starchy plants were not helping me with my weight, were not helping me with my bloating or, carrying excess fat on my body. I knew that. So I knew I had to get rid of those. And all the non-starchy vegetables that are safe on low carb or keto, well, guess what? They're also horrible if you suffer with IBS or other gut issues. And so I had to cut those out for that reason. And I realized a few months in that although I could do eggs, I definitely could not do any dairy other than butter. So I had to get rid of cheese and yogurt. But yogurt I didn't really eat a lot of. Cheese was definitely too much of a good friend, and it was way too easy for me to eat too much of it. But I knew that the lactose in the cheese was also causing me issues with my IBS. And as I've found out more recently, also caused my rosacea to flare up massively. And so to keep that under control, I just have to cut it out fully. Every now and again, full disclosure, I will have a cappuccino, okay? And because it's only one, and it's only a little bit of milk every once in a while, like maybe once a week, twice a week, it's very minor. It affects me on a pretty small scale. If I was to have one every single day, forget it. I couldn't do that, right? So I had to cut out all the things that are okay with keto and low carb. I simply couldn't do because I don't tolerate them. So for me, carnivore was fantastic for that reason. It was the ultimate elimination diet. You may not need to go carnivore. You may not. You might start low carb and find all kinds of healing. It may help you if you need to lose weight. It will help you with weight loss. You may find it makes enough difference that you just stick with it. You might find perhaps low carb isn't enough. Try keto. And if you tolerate those non-starchy plants and you are okay with dairy and it doesn't cause you issues, keep at it, right? Not, I don't judge. It's not for me to say. Lots of people do really well on both of these protocols. For me, I'm so grateful for carnivore because that is when I found the most healing, to the point where I was almost shocked when I found these old Facebook. First of all, they're old Facebook photos, right? It's kind of like, wow, I colored my hair that shade, or I wore that day, those kind of moments. But also, oh wow, I looked even back then, even almost 10 years on, like 10 years ago, almost. I looked in so much pain and discomfort. I looked so bloated. And you could just see it in my face as the months and the years progressed, just how it would get worse and worse and worse until finally I was able to reverse it. But today I ended up, I had a nice big lunch, scrambled eggs with cut up chicken breast. It was delicious, filling. And about an hour later, the rain had stopped, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to walk through town, head all the way out to the grocery store, which is only like 1.5 kilometers away, which is really not too far. And then I was going to head back, stop at Starbucks probably, and then make my way back. And in total, I did 4.3 kilometers, which is about 2.7 miles. I felt great. I did. I felt amazing, especially after looking at the old photos of me where I have to lean in most of the photos somewhere. There's either a crutch in the corner or I'm holding one while I'm taking a selfie, or someone's got a picture of me with my crutches because I needed them. There's lots of photos where I have one of those airline neck pillows because I constantly had pain in my neck between my ear and through my shoulder area, that I've since been able to reverse, unless I, sit with my head tilted weird for too long. And the fact that I went from having to be in a wheelchair for almost 9 years, where I can just say, hey, you know what? It's not raining out right now. I'm going to help the food digest a little better. I'm going to take a walk through town and back. And I did. And I felt fantastic. No pain, no shortness of breath, just a really nice, long walk. And I realized just the fact that I did like 2.7 miles, 4.3 kilometers approximately. And I was able to do that feeling comfortable and positive, other than the fact it rained for part of the walk, so I got a little wet. But beyond that, I felt amazing. It definitely helped digest my lunch, gave me a bit of burst of energy. I've had one regular coffee today. That's it. Felt pretty amazing. Just keeping my endorphins going and those feel good vibes. But I realized I don't have to be walking 10 miles every day at all. Look at where I've come from. And that's sort of self-talk to myself, because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I can have moments where I can sort of, not that I forget that I've healed, but I forget that every day I can get up and just even walk around the house. Every day that I can cross the road on my own 2 feet. Anytime I want to. Anytime I decide I want to walk, half a mile down the road to go to the local coffee shop for a decaf or whatever, and come back without any issues, without any worry of, well, what if this goes out? What if I don't make it? What if it's too, like I don't have to worry about those things at all anymore. that is a blessing. And it's just, for me, at least, I was reminded that actually every single step of progress is progress. There's one of you guys out there, I don't know if you're watching this at the moment, but 19 Stony 64, who has had his own miraculous healing journey and was out walking on the Appalachian trails. And I'm like, wow, dude, that is awesome. And it is. For a guy who himself was very restricted in his mobility for a long time until he started healing, that's amazing. And part of me is like, but I'm not walking that much, but I don't have to. And he would say to me, yeah, but you don't have to. You do you, right? And that's it, isn't it? We're all on different, we're all on the same big path, but we all have little different roots and branches we're taking to get there. Who knows? Maybe someday, if the London Marathon was to ever have a charity category or walking category, I don't want to run, I hate running. Okay. I won't even run for the bus. I won't. But if I could do that distance while walking, I'm in, you know. So who's to say I wouldn't do that someday? Or maybe one day my husband and I will go on a rambling adventure. I would love to go, maybe someday, either walking tours through Portugal, like go back to Portugal and do a big walking tour, because I was in a wheelchair still when we did that in March of 2023 on our anniversary. Hopefully we'll get back there someday. Or maybe we'll do a big walking tour up in Scotland somewhere. I don't know. There's loads of places to do it. And maybe that will be my life goal. I don't know, 5 years, 10 years time, not sure. But I realized it's an amazing, miraculous thing. Just the fact that now I can get up and, again, even if I'm just walking 1 mile a day or 3 miles in a day, I'm walking. I'm walking without a wheelchair. Everything else will come if it's meant to come. And not because I'm pushing it, not because I'm making it happen, but simply because that's where I've gotten to, you know, without trying to force things. I don't know. Maybe I don't make any sense. I hope I do. Just wanted to share that with you guys because it struck me as I was trying to think about what should I talk about in the video today? And then I realized, you know what? Here's what I was struggling with, feeling like I'm not doing enough, forgetting until I looked at those old Facebook photos. I'm doing plenty. And what one person might do doesn't mean I have to do. What I'm doing doesn't mean someone else has to do, right? Anyways, I don't know. I hope this makes sense. That's my point. I hope that this is encouraging and helpful, whether you are at a point yourselves right now where you are getting back your health and you are also doing maybe walking or running or at the gym, whatever you're doing to feel healthier, that's awesome. And for those of you who are still maybe limited in your mobility, perhaps you're still in a lot of chronic pain and inflammation and you feel like I'll never get to that point. I have absolutely been there and lived that. And I don't want anyone to feel like just because I'm saying, oh, hey, I walked, 4.5 kilometers today, almost 3 miles. What are you doing? Not at all. To me, it just blows my mind how incredible God is, that He has healed me enough that I can even do that. That's the point of the video. And if that maybe encourages you and gives you hope that, hey, maybe you'll get to that point too yourself, or that's something you are thinking you might want to get to someday, fantastic. But if you're not there yet, and it just is something that encourages you for maybe the future, that's awesome too. All right, guys, that is it for me for this evening. Thank you so much for watching, for all your comments and your support and your love and all your prayers and good wishes. I really, really appreciate it. Hope you guys have amazing rest of your days and or slash weekends. And I will see you in the next video. Hope to have more content tomorrow. Bye for now, guys.